There's a moment every parent knows. The child is struggling. Maybe it's a puzzle they can't solve. Maybe it's a friendship that's quietly falling apart. Maybe it's a wall they keep running into and you can see exactly how to get them over it. You've been over that wall yourself. You know the footholds. You know the angle. And your hand moves before your brain does. That's not a flaw. That's love doing what love does. The instinct to spare someone you care about from pain is one of the most human things there is. Nobody questions the impulse. The impulse is fine. It's what happens when you act on it every single time that starts to go wrong. Because here's what the child learns when you always step in. Not that they are capable. Not that walls can be climbed. What they learn quietly, without anyone saying it out loud, is that when things get hard, someone arrives. That the moment of struggle is a signal for rescue, not for effort. You didn't teach them that walls are climbable. You taught them that walls are for other people, people without someone to lift them over. That lesson doesn't show up immediately. It shows up later, when there's no one left to lift them, and the wall is still there. There's a difference between protecting a child and preparing one. Protecting says, nothing bad should reach you. Preparing says, when something bad reaches you, and it will, you'll know what to do. One of those raises a person. The other raises someone who has never had to be one yet. And the hard thing, the thing that makes this genuinely difficult, is that protection looks like love in the moment. It feels like love. It is love in a way. But love that only removes obstacles doesn't teach someone to move. It teaches them to wait. And at some point the obstacles stop getting removed. That's when the bill comes due. Think about what failure actually does, not catastrophic failure, not the kind that breaks something permanently. The ordinary kind. The kind where you try something, it doesn't work, and you're left sitting with that fact. That moment, the sitting with it, is where almost everything real gets built. Because in that moment, you have to decide something. Am I the kind of person who tries again, or am I the kind of person who decides this isn't for me? That choice, made hundreds of times across a childhood, across a life, is how a self gets constructed. Not through success. Through the response to not succeeding. A child who has never sat in that moment doesn't know who they are when things fall apart. They've never had to find out. The parent who steps in every time isn't a bad parent. Let's be clear about that. They are almost always a parent who was hurt, who knows what falling feels like and made a quiet promise somewhere along the way, not my child. Not like that, and that promise makes complete sense. It comes from a real place. But the child doesn't need to be protected from the experience of falling. The child needs to know that falling is survivable. Those are not the same thing. One removes the fall. The other removes the fear of it. You can only remove the fear by letting the fall happen and being close enough to witness it without stopping it. That's the harder job. That's the one that costs the parent something. Standing back while your child struggles goes against every instinct. But instincts are not always right. They're just fast. There is a particular kind of loneliness that comes from never having been tested. You don't feel it as loneliness at first. It feels like comfort, like safety, like things just tend to work out. But underneath it, something is missing, and you can't name what it is because you've never had to look for it. The people around you seem to carry something you don't. A steadiness. A quiet confidence that has nothing to do with how things are going right now. You watch them absorb a bad week, a failed plan, a door that closed, and keep moving. And you wonder how. What you're watching is not talent, it's not luck. It's the accumulated result of having fallen before. Of knowing, in the body, not just in the mind, that the ground comes back up to meet you. There's something else that happens when failure gets removed from a childhood. The child grows up without a real relationship to difficulty. And without that relationship, Everything hard feels like evidence of something wrong with them, with the situation, with the world. Hard stops feeling like a phase. It starts feeling like a verdict. When the first job doesn't work out. When the first serious relationship ends badly. When they hit a wall at 24 or 31 or 45 that they genuinely don't know how to approach, the ground beneath them doesn't feel solid. Because it never had to be. Someone else was always the ground. That's not their fault. You can't miss what you were never shown. But it does mean they're starting something at 30 that most people started at 9. And starting late is harder. Now the falls hurt differently. Now the recovery has to happen in front of other people, in a life that's already underway, without the safety of it being allowed to just be practice. And yet, the people who get there do get there. Slowly, sometimes painfully, but they find it because the capacity was always there. It was just never asked for, which might be the saddest part of all this. Not that the child couldn't do it, that they were never given the chance to find out. Real parenting is not about being the answer. It's about being present while they search for one. It's about knowing the difference between a child who needs a hand and a child who needs 10 more minutes with the problem. It's about resisting the voice that says do something when what the moment actually calls for is stillness. It's about trusting that the child in front of you has more in them than you can see, even when they can't see it either, especially then. And that trust is hard to hold, because children are not good at hiding suffering. They cry, they go quiet. They look at you with that specific face that means everything is wrong and they need it to not be, and you have to hold your position. Not because you don't care, because you care about the right thing. You care about who they're becoming, not just how they feel right now. Those two things are not always the same. The world will not wait for them to be ready. It doesn't adjust its timeline to match what they've been prepared for. It just arrives with its walls and its gaps and its moments that ask everything of you at once. And in those moments, you either have something to draw on or you don't. That something gets built in the small falls, the failed tests, the friendships that ended badly, the plans that collapsed, the times they sat with the weight of something and found out, quietly, without anyone making a speech about it, that they could carry it. Every one of those moments was an offer to become someone who has been through something and knows it. Every time someone stepped in and took that offer away with the best intentions, with real love, with every good reason in the world, the child got a little lighter. And lightness isn't always a gift. Sometimes the weight is exactly the point. You don't have to let them break, but you do have to let them bend. Because the child who has never bent doesn't know they won't break. And one day something will push hard enough that it matters. And they'll have no idea what they're capable of. Not because they couldn't handle it, because no one ever let them try.